So here we are, provincial budget coming out in another couple of weeks on March 22nd. A lot of people have been saying, okay, price of gas going crazy. What are you going to do to help us? And the idea was for perhaps Premier Legault to institute the same sort of a tax freeze on gas that Alberta has announced they will do. But the Premier shot that idea down, unfortunately. Or maybe fortunately, he says there'll be money made up in the budget. As everyone gets checks, that'll offset the cost of this.
I think he sasaid the check is in the mail.
That's right.
Didn't he?
The old check will be in the mail, ladies and gentlemen, but that's not good enough, at least not for Eric DUHAIME, leader of the Conservative Party of Quebec. Mr. DUHAIME, I should let you know, when we spoke a few weeks ago, and I don't think a lot of people, certainly not on the Anglo side, knew much about you or your party, but your interview is one of the most listened to here on the radio station after the fact. So I thought you should know that. There are a lot of people interested. Yeah. And I think when we spoke at the time, you said membership had gone up, and those numbers continue to go up. Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely. We just reached actually 55,000 members today, and there's a lot of Anglophones among those. People discovering that there's also a Conservative party provincially, not just federally. So it's very interesting, and Anglophones are not hostage of the Liberal Party anymore. I think they can have a real choice, even if they want to maintain, the federation. There's a possibility to vote something else than for the Liberals. It's not going to be a referendum on October 3rd. It's going to be a real election for which direction we want Quebec to go.
So a couple of questions based on that. I know there was polling going on in the Beauce, and I know you actually tweeted about the fact that you were very heartened by that because you're basically running neck and neck with the CAQ in the Beauce. Am I right?
Yeah, that's right. There's been polls that were putting us even in both and in some Quebec City constituencies as well.
So I asked earlier today from one of our analysts why you don't have a candidate running in Marie-Victorin.
We have a candidate running in Marie-Victorin. It's Anne Casabonne. Anne Casabonne is a very well-known actress in Quebec, and she's probably the most well-known of all the candidates, actually, in terms of name recognition. So she's campaigning hard. I'll be there over the weekend going door knocking with her and with the many volunteers.
And is that a sign for you in terms of what happens there? Because obviously the PQ candidate there, pretty high profile, the CAQ candidate going out with the Premier, knocking on doors.
Well, it's a tough constituency, honestly, for us because it's a separatist stronghold. You have to know that it's been voting Parti Québécois for ages, so it's going to be a tough ride. But we're quite confident that we have a good candidate. And, we had 1% in the last election. So no matter what result we're going to get, it's going to be a huge increase. So we'll see what's going to happen on April 11th.
And you're going to be going door to door with Anne Casabonne. But, Monsieur DUHAIME, I'm under the impression that you have very different ideologies.
We have a different ideology than the CAQ, of course. But we're going to campaign hard, as you mentioned earlier, and the gas price, I think it's a huge issue. Over the last weekend, people were just talking about that, how crazy it is. $2 per liter. We've never, ever seen that. And the government can do something because currently they're making more money than ever on gas, believe it or not. So we do believe that it's time to give a break to the car drivers and taxpayers.
I meant specifically between you and Madame Casabonne, though.
No. Between me and Madame Casabonne, we both agree on there's a reason why she joined the Conservative Party of Quebec. She was against the measures during the crisis, and she does believe in freedom, in democracy, and in human rights, and that's exactly what the Conservative Party stands for.
All right. So and I think I may have asked you this when we first spoke, a lot of people seem to, sort of be attaching themselves to your party, positive for you, but we are eventually going to be out of this whole situation with COVID restrictions. Gradually, that's being lifted. By the middle of April, hopefully everything will be off the table. What do you run on then if that's no longer an issue for your party and for people who support you?
There's many issues. First off, we need to fix our healthcare system. That's our main preoccupation right now, because if we had so many lockdowns in Quebec, it's because our healthcare system was less efficient than anywhere else in America. So, and it's not because it's underfunded. We're giving $1 billion per week. We deserve much better services. As you know, the Conservative Party of Quebec wants to add the contribution of the private sector to our healthcare system. We want some competition. We want to decentralize the system as well. So we have a lot of propositions in terms of healthcare. And the other issue that is going to be a huge problem is the inflation going up like crazy these days. We need some concrete solutions on that. And we do believe that giving tax breaks to taxpayers is a good first start. And that's what we're proposing. And the third one is regarding oil and gas, because it's now a huge issue with the war in Ukraine. We do believe that Quebec needs to develop its own resources. We have huge, resources in Quebec. We have gas, we have oil. Unfortunately, the government currently, Mr. Legault promised in the campaign that he would exploit those resources, but now he's adopting a bill to forbid the exploitation. And we do believe that we need to create wealth in Quebec, and we need to be autonomous in terms of energy.
So that's a controversial stance to take, because do you think there's a public appetite now, even with what's going on in the world? That's not going to last forever either, on drilling for oil here, on using our natural resources and exploiting them. It seems most people are against that here.
The transition is not gonna be done overnight. I do believe that yes, we need to progress towards a transition in terms of energy, but for example, the demand for gas is going to increase for the next 50 years. So before we start to see a decline, it could take 45, 50 years. So we have time. And in the meantime, what do we do? Do we want to import 100%, or we want to develop our own resources? The idea is that we're not going to have to transport it as far. We're going to be able to have environmental standards that are much better than anywhere else. And thirdly, we're going to have people working with very good jobs in that industry in Quebec. So I think that, I understand that there's an official speech by environmentalists, but overall, when you look at the facts, it doesn't add up. I mean, in terms of environment, we rather have oil and gas from Quebec than oil and gas from, far away from elsewhere in the world.
Okay, and speaking of things not necessarily adding up, with regards again to temporarily suspending, taking the sales tax on gasoline following Alberta's lead, an energy sector expert was saying basically that's not going to work, that it's still going to hurt motorists in the long run, because there won't be money for infrastructure, that we constantly have a shortfall in that department. So what do we do about that?
A year and a half ago, gas was half of the price. You have to understand that it was $1, now it's $2. Out of $2, 64 to 67 cents, depending on where you live in the region of Montreal, goes in taxes. We're not saying that we should abolish taxes on gas. We're just saying that we need to bring it to a normal level. We want to decrease it. We want the sales tax, the provincial sales tax, to get over it. So it's about 20 cents per liter. The government is still going to collect over 40 cents per liter minimum. So we're not saying that we should abolish taxes, but currently, they're collecting much more tax than they were a year ago on gas. So while while car drivers currently are making huge sacrifices, the government is making more money out of gas than at any time. So we think that's not normal, and the government should give a break a little bit to consumers.
Good point.
Mr. Duhaime, there's been a lot said. We're talking almost on a daily basis. The situation in Ukraine now, there will be many more immigrants coming to this country. Some will end up here in Quebec. We know the way things stand right now. If you're an immigrant here, and I'm not sure the government has weighed in on this yet or not, you have 6 months to learn French, or else you're basically pretty much out of luck. Where do you stand on that rule?
Well, everybody, even Anglophones in Quebec, wish that, people coming in could learn both languages. Quebec is obviously, the official language is French, and I hope that those people can actually learn French. I think when they arrive, it's always a good step when you arrive somewhere to learn the language of the country where you want to go. And I do believe that we should encourage those people to learn French, yes.
Yeah, but the 6 months seems like a reasonable window.
Timeline,
exactly, yeah.
Well, maybe 6 months is a short period. We could give them a year, especially if those people, they're leaving. They have a very tough situation. I think we can be human, and we can accommodate them and make sure that they could stay here. But Ukrainians are more than welcome in Quebec, and I think that's the most important message we need to send right now.
So, are you for increasing immigration?
Well, as you know, at my convention, I was beaten on that one. We had a debate with our 800 members last November in Quebec City, and unfortunately, I lost on that. They adopted the same policy as the CAQ, which means to lower the levels of immigration. But I don't think it's the problem of immigration in Quebec is necessarily the number. My concern is just that we have a shortage of manpower right now in Quebec. It's the main issue that I hear when I tour Quebec, and I tour Quebec a lot. I'm currently in between the Quebec City. I'm going towards the Outaouais region right now, and I'm everywhere. In every single region where I go, they're always talking about the shortage of manpower. And it's not just the number of immigrants; it's the process that is way, way, way too long. There's a huge problem. There's not a single business that could work that way that would survive. They would all go bankrupt after 6 months if they were as inefficient. It's not normal that it takes years to figure out if yes or no you're going to be able to stay in Quebec. There's something completely wrong. And even for the employers, it's a huge problem because they never know if it's going to work with their employees. Even the seasoned workers coming in, it's always a huge bureaucratic nightmare. And this needs to stop. I think the first thing we need is to clean up the mess, because the system, no matter what the figures are, the system is a mess right now.
Before we let you go, I would like to know where you stand on a woman's right to choose.
Well, personally, I've always been in favor of the women's right to choose. As you know, I'm an openly gay leader. I think I'm the first one of all conservative parties in Canada's history. But and I'm not a socially conservative. But everybody has a right to believe whatever they want. I believe in the freedom of religion, but at the same time, the religion of certain people should not become the law of others. Certainly not in matters of abortion.
Last question from me, which has to do with the situation on Dawson College. You know what we went through here? Dawson was promised something by the CAQ government. The CAQ has reneged and said no. Now they want to impose limits. What's your position on that?
Well, my position is, is like everybody who's listening. We're losing our French and our English when we hear that. On one hand, we have, Dawson and many activists on one side who say that the English system is underfunded compared to the French one. The Legault government currently is showing us figures that are going the exact opposite, the other way around. And it's very tough for the average citizen right now to figure out who's right and who's not, because the figures just don't work. I mean, you can't have it both ways. It's either that, personally, I think that everybody should be funded the same way, no matter what's your language. I mean, it's not, we're funding education. We're not funding people because we like the language they speak. So every single student should have the same funding, no matter what language the college that he's studying at is.
Would you limit the number of English students who could go to an English CEGEP?
Personally, I always prefer measures that are not coercion. I prefer to try to, convince people than to oblige people. I've never believed that a big power of the state should not be used against citizens. But that being said, if I were premier, I would encourage, especially Anglophone students, to come to the Francophone CEGEPs. I think that, Anglophones have really changed in Quebec positively, and Francophones as well. We're on both sides. We're much more bilingual than we've ever been, and I think it's a huge richness for Quebec, and we should take advantage of it. And I think all Anglophones right now in Quebec recognize that it's something positive for us to be French, and that the main language is French. And I think on both sides we want to preserve that, but also we want to make sure that our population gets more bilingual.
All right. Monsieur Duhaime, I wish we had more time. Pleasure speaking to you. Hope we get to do it again. Thanks so much.
It's always a pleasure. Thank you so much. Bye
Eric
now.
Duhaime, leader of the Provincial Conservative Party.
Once again, impressive.
You're reacting the same way as last time, right? Yeah.
Last time we had the same reaction. Yeah. It's like my immediate instinct is to not want to like him.
Doesn't waffle a lot
because of the party values. And yet,
yeah.
I mean, I like what he has to say.